Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sophie Burt, and I'm here on behalf of the Urban Development Institute New Zealand in my role as Deputy Chair of the Canterbury chapter, together with my fellow UDINS member, Mike Blackburn. And we're here to talk about our oral submission on the Christchurch City Council's Development Contributions Policy 2025. By way of background, the Urban Development Institute was established in New Zealand 2018 to provide an open and inclusive national body that champions great urban design and development. And the Institute provides a platform for collaboration, partnership, excellence, learning and transparency. One of its objectives is to provide an environment for the sector to work together and with government to reduce uncertainty and increase consistency between policy jurisdictions, as well as aligning policy and implementation. The Institute aims to facilitate collaboration around best practice by connecting and coordinating people working in an urban environment. Unlike other institutes, UDINS operates on a cross-sector membership model. Its members are people involved in building New Zealand communities, from developers to contractors, designers, planners, architects, engineers, through to lawyers, material suppliers, real estate agencies, accountants, councils and central government, and all the players in between. Its focus is on the process of delivering development rather than on the product itself. And an important role of UDINS is to provide a collective voice and enable connections that are crucial for removing barriers to quality urban development. And UDINS listens to its members and provides a platform to learn and collaborate. We do this via seminars, events and that sort of thing, but also by making submissions on behalf of our members. We're here on behalf of UDINS to present the summary of the submission to assure our members' views are heard. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Sophie. So as representatives of the land development and construction sector, we acknowledge the necessity of infrastructure investment to support Christchurch's growth, whether that be through greenfield expansion or urban intensification. Development contributions play a crucial role in enabling the council to deliver infrastructure. However, it's also vital that these charges are equitable, transparent, and directly tied to the actual cost that the council incurs in response to new developments. It's also important to emphasise that increasing DCs ultimately flows through to impact the end purchaser of any new housing. It has a direct impact on housing affordability, particularly for first home buyers and low and middle income households. We urge the council to ensure that its new development contributions policy supports housing delivery and affordability and does not become a barrier to the much needed residential development. In our submission, we've highlighted a number of areas that we think that the council needs to look at with regard to this policy. Now I'd like to highlight 4 particular areas and provide some context to those. The first one is the revised residential unit assessment criteria. The proposed recalibration of housing unit equivalents risks creating an unfair cost burden on certain housing types, particularly medium and high density development. Development charges must be based on the actual infrastructure demand created by developments, not a broad assumption tied to density types. The council's revised HUE framework risks unfairly overcharging medium and high density projects, contrary to affordability goals. And contributions should reflect the real infrastructure use and not an average or collective cost assumptions. The second point is with regard to in-kind contributions to infrastructure. Developers often deliver infrastructure that benefits both the developer and the wider community. These contributions must be recognised to ensure fairness. Developers who deliver infrastructure as part of a project should receive a fair and transparent offset in their development contributions that they pay. Charging DCs in full while accepting in-kind works results in the council double dipping, and that's quite inequitable. The council should only charge for infrastructure that it must deliver itself. Developer-provided infrastructure should be excluded from the development charges that are provided against the developer. Thirdly, growth apportionment and not HUE apportionment. Allocating costs based on hues rather than the actual growth demand can lead to inequitable outcomes and misaligned infrastructure funding. Development contributions must be tied to the specific growth demands of individual developments, not generalised hue values. A growth-based model ensures that the costs are allocated fairly on the actual demand created. And DC should be targeted to benefit the areas of a developer's specific project. Fourthly, charges for assessments of development contributions. Introducing separate charges for assessing development contributions adds unnecessary cost and lacks justification when tied to specific developments. Assessing DC obligations is a standard part of the consent process and should not incur additional separate charges. Any fee imposed must relate directly to the service provided on a specific development and not a general administrative function. Charging for assessments without clear cost attribution undermines fairness and transparency. Just in summary, these points relate to ensuring a fair and transparent growth-aligned development contribution policy by the Council that supports rather than hinders housing development and affordability here in Christchurch. Just one final note, obviously Udens has sort of reached out to the Council prior to this policy being put forward. It's Udens' position that we genuinely want to work on behalf of our members with the Council to provide fair and equitable growth in the housing market, and that any charges levied against developers represent fair charges back for the growth that they provide in turn for the services that need to be delivered by the Council. Thank you.
Okay, go. Any questions? Anybody? Yeah, Tim.
Kind of on a slightly different tack, but to keep affordabilities. What are your thoughts with regards to supply of products that have been kind of not acceptable to New Zealand, but have been used, say, Canada or worldwide? So, for instance, friends of mine went to Australia, bought their house load of stuff from, of all places, IKEA, shipped it back, same product, exactly the same product as here, but for a third of the price. Is that... do you want to comment on that?
Look. Obviously, the government has recently announced changes to the ability for builders and merchants to bring in alternative products here into the New Zealand market, as long as they meet international standards that New Zealand can accept. I think the opportunity to bring alternative products into New Zealand, whether it be windows or wallboard lining or whatever it is, I think it's a fabulous opportunity. Anything that we can do that makes it simpler and cheaper to build houses, I think is a great idea. The biggest problem here in New Zealand is that New Zealand is a very, very small market, a long way away from other parts of the world, and actually getting stuff here en masse is a challenge.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophie and Mike. That's wonderful. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Okay. Lucy, please.